This rare opening is the best one if you're under 2000 elo. It starts with the move d6. I call it the universal defense. You can play it literally against absolutely everything. Yet once I have started to play it, my chess rating skyrocketed. So you continue with the move e5, you fight for the center, immediately put pressure on this d4 pawn. A lot of players are gonna take it, which leads to an amazing endgame, which is actually even better for black, and I win almost every game I played here under 2000 elo. So you take it back, then they're gonna take it, otherwise they don't have anything at all. And this king in the center, please do not be afraid of it. Without the queens, there is no danger you are going to be checkmated. You only need castles to make sure your king is safe, so the queen cannot create a lot of troubles. Without the queens, your king is very good in the center, it's controlling so many squares, consolidates your position, and builds a foundation to achieve the victory. So e4, the reason why this position is even better for black is because the c4 pawn is really annoying. Like, it's not allowing white to develop the pieces normally. It's rather going to be a weakness. So we just play bishop e6. We put pressure. And I want you to know where your pawns belongs here, because it's the most important piece to achieve success. When this knight goes to c3, all he needs to do to neutralize it is play this move c6, and I want you to remember it, the absolutely key move to make sure you are having the initiative. You are in the driver's seat from the move 7 here. Now the knight cannot go forward, so please do not touch this pawn anymore until the situation changes dramatically. Then you place this knight to d7. The goal in the opening is to get ready for the battle and destroy your opponent, of course. So you need to bring every single piece to the battlefield, right? Do not forget anyone. This knight goes to d7, and the c5 is like a beautiful square. Here we can either immediately play knight to c5 or even play bishop c5 first to get those bishops exchanged, threaten to take this guy and ruin his pawn structure. Why not? But if he takes, then our knight goes to c5, attacking this, attacking that. Already really inconvenient. Like knight c5, yeah, also was great. Because here, maybe at least he has a chance to do something like that, but he has to be brave for doing that. Under 2000, this opening works wonders, not only for myself, but also for hundreds of my students. Once they started to play it, their chess completely changed. It's so simple, right? You don't need to memorize theory. It's based on your understanding of the position. And he does indeed play king e2. By the way, I covered this variation together with so many others in my 10-day opening mastery program, where you can build a complete holistic lifetime opening repertoire both for white and black. The link is in the description. Don't miss. There is an absolutely amazing deal right now. Check it out. All right, king e2. What do we do? I think we can just ignore it for now, because this king is grabbing space, like the knight wanted to go there. So I might as well start with just knight e7 and bring more pieces into the game. And then king c7 is the plan. This is the only open files. And you remember which pieces are great along the open files? Of course, the rooks. So we want to put at least one of our rooks there, maybe even two. And also I want you to remember this move a5. Once our knight comes to c5, it stands really great. It like controls everything, our best piece. But of course, we don't want to allow them to attack it with their pawn. That is why we just play a5 and control this key square. Once you take, it's not going to be easy for you to play b4. First, you have this problem along the a file. That is why we normally put this rook to d8. It's very good here, whereas this one is useful along the a file for the time being. All right, f3, yeah, that's reasonable. But now, how do you develop this guy? It's like only can go here, which is not ideal. All right, so far we can continue with king c7. Just go ahead with our plan. Once you understand the plan, it's so much easier for you to play, and your opponent sees this opening like once out of 200 games. It's super rare, so he doesn't have any idea what to do. And that is why it's so effective for you. All right, king to f2. He's wasting yet another tempo just to get ahead in terms of the development. But it's not the best strategy. Now I can take that he has spoiled the tempo like that. Knight c5, put pressure on this pawn. I promised you it's going to be a weakness, and he has a tremendous problem. He cannot like go bishop to c2, so he has to play bishop e2, but then he blocks this knight on g1 and it doesn't have any way to be developed at all. I mean, only go here, but it's not like it's helping you much. But we just continue our plan. This is the best thing. Our opponent struggles. He cannot find a suitable plan for himself, and we just continue with our normal plan here. Very, very easy to play. All right, let's take it, because now he cannot take with the bishop. We're going to grab a pawn completely for free, which means he has to go back with the knight. Imagine how much time he's wasting there. This is something you should never ever do in your games, but we of course have a tremendous advantage. Like, those pieces do not participate in the game, which means effectively we have a tremendous development advantage. Yeah, maybe we could have played f5. That was another plan, just to try to get here, maybe a forward check or something like that. But on the other hand, again, he's wasting time. Those pieces are not playing, which means there should be a way for us to go ahead and attack. Once you have developed every single one of your pieces, this is your first goal. Once you have done it, you're looking for ways to attack, to create problems for the opponent, and you start with the most active opportunities: checks, captures, and threats. All right, I don't have any checks here. I don't really have any captures, but I do see a threat. I can play rook to d4, which is improving my position and at the same time creates a huge problem for my opponent. This thing, I told you, this is going to be a big weakness for white. Well, how on earth do you defend it? The only way I see is to play b3, but that is not possible because I'm going to take it. So that is huge. Once you just win a pawn, you have a better development, the position is just winning for you. But doesn't matter how great you think your idea is, you never ever disregard what your opponent is doing. Always think about his threats and ideas. He plays knight to h3. I think he wants to get here, which is going to attack all of those pawns, and we might lose one of our pawns as well. So what I want to do is maybe play f6 first, just to make sure my pawn structure is very solid, this g5 square is covered, and my opponent does not have any active counterplay. So I'm the only one in the driver's seat, the one dictating the terms, creating threats. That should be your goal. But let me calculate a little bit. If we take all of that and then he plays knight g5, I play f6, he can take here, but this knight is like basically almost trapped. How are you gonna survive afterwards? And I can continue with rook to c2. So the important thing is to check your opponent's ideas, ask yourself, is it dangerous for you or not? And if it's not, maybe don't waste time for it and go ahead with your own plan. That is what I want to do here. Right, bishop takes, rook takes. Now rook c2 is a big threat. Whenever you can, place your rook on the second rank if you're black, or seventh rank if you're white, because that's where you can get a lot, you can grab a lot of pawns, you can create a lot of problems for the opponent. All right, knight c3, that is a reasonable move, but remember it wasn't c3, so he just like wasted 2 tempi for nothing. You should never ever do that in your games. Why? Because time is the most important resource, both in our life and in chess, and I can use that time to create new problems, like bring this pawn to b4. I think I like it. I mean, I should be a little bit careful not to lose my rook, but I don't see any way for him to attack it. That is why I can play b5. And that is a very typical plan in this opening, just attack on the queen side. We basically like play on this side of the board, right? We only make moves on this side of the board where we are weaker to stop our opponent's ideas, like this move f6. Don't play on the side of the board where you're weaker. You're gonna always lose. But if you play on the side where you're stronger, and you force your opponent to respond there, then you're gonna always win because you're just stronger on this part. As simple as that. b4 is a big threat. The knight will be hanging, it has to go somewhere, and then again we get access to this second rank, which is so beautiful for us. This knight on c5, like notice how powerful it is, it controls absolutely everything. I don't see any real... Yes, you can and should play rook d1 to fight for the d file, to yeah, make use of your rook. It's doing absolutely nothing on h1, but it's a little bit too late. And notice, thanks to this king in the center, in the beginning you might thought, oh my god, I'm so afraid to have that king in the center, but it controls all of the squares. Imagine it would be on g8 instead, and you would make your castles that you love to make so much. Well, he would play rook to d1, control all of those penetration squares, and threaten you checkmate in one, and then you need to waste even more time to like make a luft, maybe bring your king towards the center. You don't need to do any of that. There is no checkmate possible, and your king already controls those squares. And once all of the pieces are going to be traded, it's ready to come straight into the actions and bring you the victory. So you save so much time. All right. Oh, that is a tricky move. Although I'm still not sure it works. Like, I thought the idea is to go ahead and give me a check and win the rook once I play b4. But the problem is my pawn on c6, such a beautiful pawn, put it to c6 and never touch again. It can just take the knight whenever it goes with the check and protect my rook at the same time. So that is not a threat. I think the idea is just to go somewhere backwards, like a2, and defend that rook, so that he stops me from going to c2, and don't lose more material. But I'm a pawn up, so I'm happy to go for it. Once you have extra material, you want to convert it, and to achieve that, you just exchange stuff. Like if you have 10 pieces against 9, you only have 10% more material. But if you exchange a bunch of stuff and then you have 2 against 1, you have twice as many pieces or pawns. So exchanging, normally you want to exchange pieces but not pawns. The more pawns you exchange, the closer your opponent gets to a draw. So be careful with that. But if you need to exchange that to like get some penetration squares, to exchange more stuff, then of course go for it. All right, how do we win here? Well, I do want to stop knight g5 at this point. That would win the pawn back. The question is, how do I do that? I have knight e6, but I don't want to go backwards. So I want to make that move f6. If you have this pawn chain, this is really cool because all of those pawns are protected, and the only problem you need to care about is base pawn. But it's very difficult to attack the base pawn for him. All right, he wants to play knight d3, and if I take back with the knight and attack that pawn, no problem. I improve my position, so I bring my king forward. By the way, notice how much time I save comparing to having that king to g8 and going all the way from there. And so after knight d3, I can just take it and play king b5, and I'm already where I need to be. And that's cool for me to exchange that pair of knights, because with one pair of knights, it's like the extra pawn just converts. It's enough to win the game in like 99% of the situations. All right. The way you convert it is you create passers, and then you promote those passers. That is the plan. And right now we don't have a passer. The passer is when your pawn has no problems to achieve the break rank of your opponent, basically. And here it's a potential passer, but not one yet, because he can take. I think the plan is very simple. We can play c5, then knight to c6, and get to d4 with our knight. Imagine how cool that knight would be there. Let's go. His knight is also pretty passive. I mean, we need to be a little bit careful not to blunder some fortress, right? If we go to d4, he takes, and then we don't have any way to penetrate. But it's almost impossible. Like, pawn and games are always winning with an extra pawn, normally. Of course, there are always exceptions. Chess is a game of exceptions. But when I say always, well, have that asterisk mark, and you can find an exception for every rule in chess. But in most of the cases, that's the key principles that you need to follow to get to 2000 elo and even beyond that. We can even be flexible, like we have this plan. We also have this plan to attack his weakness and then break through with c4, because that is going to create a passer. Why it's great to create a passer, especially a distant one? Not only because you can just promote. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it's too difficult, but you can distract your opponent, right? He would need to go here with the king to stop your pawn, and meanwhile, you're going to get here and take all of his king side. So that is how you use the passers. I'm really curious about this move, knight d4. Is it actually winning or not? Okay, he is playing f4, which I can take and then play knight d4. That I don't get. That seems like I'm just winning a pawn, because knight d4 has a huge advantage compared to the knight a5 move. Remember, you always want to go to the center. The knight in the center is absolutely great. This is the small center, this is the big center, because it controls so many squares. Oops. So many squares from here is very difficult for the opponent to deal with, especially if he cannot attack it with pawns. And so I'm attacking this pawn, there is no way for this king to protect it, and once I take it, I have two connected passers. Like, it's great to have a passer in the endgame, but to have two connected passers is even better. Alright, once I take it, once you have the passers, you want to push it forward. Yes, make sure you don't blunder it immediately, but you have to be looking for ways to push it forward. The more advanced it is, the more dangerous it is for the opponent. Okay, he also grabs a pawn, but very important, even if he takes it, he still doesn't have a single passer. And it's crucial to have those passers. So I don't care about it. He needs like yet another move and sacrifice the pawn back to even create a passer. But then my king is even pretty close to stop it. Meanwhile, I do my stuff. I go forward and create problems, make my pawns more dangerous for the opponent. And if I can do it with the tempo, like by giving a check, that is even more fantastic because I win time. He goes, okay, he goes here. I think I can go ahead and play c3. That is the most dangerous move. It creates an immediate threat of promoting the pawn with a check, which would win the game on the spot. So he has to go there, but then I win even more time, bringing my knight back to the game. The knight on b3, it has done its function, it has grabbed the pawn. Now I need to come closer to the center. Here I'm, for example, attacking that pawn. I'm freeing the way for the second passer. And so he has a very unpleasant choice to go back and lose this central pawn, or to go here, but then my pawns are gonna run. I don't even care that much about this pawn. Like I said, it's not a passer anyway. So I want to go forward, use all of my pieces to promote my pawns. All right, he finally does that, but I still don't care. It's so slow. It's all about the time. The one who is faster just wins the game. Okay, I can even continue all with checks, not wasting any single second. King c3, I have this beautiful move. King c1, king c3, and b2 would be a checkmate. King a1, actually the same. Right, and this knight, like once it takes on g7, so far away from the action. Huge problem for the knight. But what if your opponent starts with the move e4? Can you still play this opening? Yes, it works wonders. You play absolutely the same thing. That is why it's the universal defense. d6, then you continue with knight to f6. Your opponent already doesn't really know much what to do. Nobody plays like that. Or they play the pierce defense, which is like g6 and bishop g7. But we play e5, the Philidor defense here. And then if they play d4, just very important, never blunder this pawn on e5. So many players, they blunder this key pawn of the entire opening, and then they're upset and start to blame the opening or me for this loss. But please, if you're not going to blunder this pawn, if you're going to play c6 and control those squares from the knight, you're going to be fine, but never blunder it. All right, knight to d7. Now we are safe. We are not going to get the endgame this time, so you get to see how to handle this position, this middle game, what kind of ideas you get here. Takes, well, we can always take with both of those things, but taking with the pawn is so much simpler. Just remember, every time they take, just take it back, and you basically have no problems whatsoever afterwards, because essentially what happens is they exchange this pawn for this one, and that also opens up this bishop for you. So we can, of course, bishop e7, plays bishop e7, that would transpose to the normal variation, but we have also some alternatives, like going somewhere here, like d6. I don't know, should we try it? Because what can happen is he can play bishop c4 here, then we play bishop e7, and then he can take. Right, so from that perspective, to make it more instructive for you, I'm gonna just play bishop e7 and continue the plan. But yeah, bishop b4, if you want to try that, no problems. Bishop d6, also completely fine. He cannot play knight b5 because we have knight xe4. Well, in some cases, maybe not immediately, because there is queen d5, like threatening that and that. Yeah, maybe bishop d6, I don't like that much. If you want to play online but on a real chessboard, Chessnut makes it possible. I have this amazing Chessnut Evo for more than a year now, and it completely changed how I play and train chess. I have this real pieces feeling, but I play on chess.com or Lee Chess, I also have my books and studies here, everything in one place, no distractions. Chestnut has a variety of different boards, so you will definitely find exactly what you need, and you get a massive discount if you use the promo code journeytograndmaster on all Chestnut products. The link is in the description. Okay, bishop g5, now we can just castle, or play c6. c6, almost never you can go wrong with it, just to control that square. Let's play it, in fact. If they take, we can just always take it back. I don't know, queen d6, just bishop e7 back, never be afraid of it. And this move c6 prepares our normal counterplay, b5, how we are gonna overtake the initiative. You don't want to stay passive and just do nothing. No, we have a very active and very clear plan. I don't know, we can even do that here immediately, not waiting for him to play a4 and stop it. Because if he takes, we're gonna just take it. I don't see a problem. Let's go for it. The sacrifices like that also don't really work. He just doesn't have enough. So yeah, he goes backwards. But then this bishop on d3 is really passive, doing absolutely nothing here. I don't like it. So finally, I'm gonna castle. Now, you remember this beautiful square for the knight on c5. Once you can establish it there, it's absolutely great. But don't blunder your e5 pawn. Please remember it for the entire life. You're going to play this amazing opening. It's going to bring you hundreds of ELO points, but just don't blunder the pawn on e5. All right. I don't know. I want to start with queen c7. I feel like it's a very good move. We are defending this pawn and now we are ready for knight c5. Yes, you might say he can play b4 and stop that, but we can play a5 immediately, challenge this pawn, like attack it twice, very inconvenient to defend it. Yes, you can play rook b1, but that would be so passive. And we have another way to go with this knight like that to get to c4. Why not? Don't worry about this bishop. It stays on c8 in this opening pretty often for the time being. And then once this knight goes somewhere, then you're gonna find a way. He actually plays that. Okay, a5, very easy plan. We play on the queen side for pretty much the majority of all of the positions, all of the variations. Just try to create pressure here. He takes. Well, that move I like even less, because now he's gonna have tremendous problems with this pawn. I'm just thinking, should I take with the queen or with the rook? I feel like taking with the rook is more instructive. This queen is good here anyway, and if I take, I'm kind of on the same file with my opponent's rook. And you never want to have your queen on the same file with your opponent's rook, because that might cause some issues, some pins. That might be annoying, but just take with the rook. Now this guy is hanging. How on earth are you gonna even defend it? Do you go like queen c1, but like using an entire queen and rook just to defend one small weak pawn? It's not a good spend of your resources, but he indeed does it. Okay, how can I increase the pressure and create more difficulties for him? I can continue with the normal plan, knight c5, bishop g4, double the rooks along the a file, put even more pressure on this pawn. I feel like it's an amazing plan, why not? Like, yes, you can try to immediately cash in and play something like that, but I don't know, I don't want it, because this pawn is weak anyway. He has to think about it the entire game. So I might as well do something interesting and finish my development and then attack for real. Okay, bishop g2, what kind of threats did he prepare? Every single time your opponent makes a move, please forget absolutely everything for just 1 second. Everything you have thought about, any ideas, traps, like whatever. And think, what is the idea of that move? Don't assume your opponent is stupid. Think, is he creating a check threat, a capture threat? Can he create a problem for me the very next move? Yes, so I think he wants to do something like that, but my rook is protected, so even if he plays knight d5, I can just take it, he takes here, I take back. I get 2 pieces for the rook, and never be afraid of that. 2 pieces are stronger than the rook. Same if he plays knight takes here, rook takes or pawn takes, both work. Maybe I just need to check that I don't blunder too many pawns, like here takes, bishop takes, queen takes, here, well, but I get the pawn here. He has just 1 pawn, and I still have a lot of initiative. But that variation changes a bit if I play bishop g4, because then, in the end of the day, he's gonna take here and attack the bishop, but it's still protected, and I can just grab this pawn. Yes, I like it, bishop g4. So The point is, whenever your opponent makes a move, you acknowledge this threat. You start to understand, like, what is the entire point of this move. Sometimes there is no point. Sometimes he just makes a stupid move. But don't assume that. Always assume your opponent is smart and he wants to actually create a problem for you. But then ask yourself, this is what 99% of chess players under 2000 ELO miss, this crucial step. Ask yourself, is it really dangerous for me? If it is, then please do something about it. But if it's not, like I concluded here, he wants something like that, but it's not dangerous for me. So I don't care, right? And I continue my plan instead of like making a passive move and going backwards, something like that. So if it's not dangerous, don't waste your time. All right, bishop e2, does it change anything? Knight d5, knight b5, I think it's all the same. If anything, this knight cannot move anymore because the bishop would be hanging behind that. So in the meantime, I can continue my idea, bring the second rook to a8. Right now, I'm not threatening to take the pawn yet, but I can, for example, go to e6. By the way, a very cool square on e6 for this guy, because it can go to d4, f4, create a lot of problems, and of course, open up the bishop. Okay. He plays knight b1, what he wants to achieve. He does create a threat now, just taking our rook. But at the same time, like, this pawn is not protected now at all, and we have two attackers. So the question, how do I deal with this threat? What is the most active way for me to deal with this threat? You might think it's rook a4, but that allows him to go back to c3 with the knight. Maybe it's okay, because otherwise I think he wants not only to take my rook, but also to play bishop c3 and then attack over here. And in that case, my rook would be better on a4. In fact, I can even take with the rook here and defend that pawn. So try to understand all of the ideas your opponent might have. Yes, it might be just one of them, bishop takes a5, but maybe there is something else that is also possible thanks to the last move that he has made. So try to understand all of the ideas, ask yourself whether it's dangerous, and based on all of that, try to find a move that deals with most of their problems while improving your position. This is the key aspect, right? Don't just play in reactive mode. He attacks me, I have to defend, I have to go backwards. Never do that. I want you to play as active as possible instead. That way you create problems for the opponent. You make his life much more difficult. That leads to him making some mistakes and you winning so many more games. All right, that's why he goes back to c3. And now instead of going back to a5, we don't want to repeat the position and make a draw. We go to a better square where it's not going to be attacked. The question is, which one should it be? Because every square kind of has a drawback. If I go to a7, for example, he can go bishop e3 and again create a pin. If I go to a6, well, there might be some pin over here. But that one I don't see as a problem. Because if he plays a4, I can just take with the knight, then with the rook, and this is never an issue for me. And otherwise, yeah, who cares? Like, he cannot use it anyhow. And I'm attacking this guy on a4. The center pawn is very important. If you can grab it, basically his entire position collapses. He plays h3, which is a reasonable move. He wants to attack my bishop, and if I take it, then he's gonna defend and kind of solve his problem. I don't want to make life that easy for him, so I'm gonna just step back to h5. My bishop is still protected. The more unprotected pieces you have on the board, the higher the chances that you're gonna blunder something. We don't need that, right? So make sure all of your pieces are protected. Like here, every single one of my pieces is protected except for this queen. But it's very difficult to attack the queen. So it's fine. And otherwise, yeah, I'm still attacking this e4 pawn. How on earth do you defend it? You don't want to play that because I can take and your king might be in trouble. Besides, I don't see a single idea to even defend that pawn. And once I take, then the second pawn would be also a problem. So you create a lot of weaknesses in your opponent's camp, and then you use every single one of your pieces to take advantage of it. This is the recipe to success. If you're under 2000 ELO and even beyond that, frankly, you want to activate all of them. Not just take two pieces and try to make something out of it. No, religiously focus on your development every single game you play. Please just do this one thing. You're going to be amazed how much stronger you're going to play. The golden principle to achieve that in the opening, to bring all of your pieces out, is one piece, one move. right? Do not spend more than one tap on every single piece before you develop every single one of them. Try to follow that in your games. Of course, there might be exceptions. If he attacks your queen and you have already made a move, of course, you're not going to say, well, just one piece, one move, so I'm going to lose my piece. I don't have any choice, right? But unless you have a very good reason to make this second move, never do that. They're basically just finishing the opening, but the position is more or less lost for white. This is how powerful this opening is, and this is the type of result you're gonna get once you go through my signature program 10-day opening mastery. Right now you have an absolutely amazing offer. You get 50% off the normal price as well as a full month of live coaching with me. It's included, it's for free. I'm gonna analyze your games, help you understand all of the mistakes you make and how you can improve your chess the fastest way possible. And as you see, my videos and my course as well, it's not about the traps. It's not about, you know, some trick that you're going to play and hope your opponent is going to blunder and then you're going to win. No, this opening is based on ideas and actual principles that you have to understand, and I help you, do my best to help you with that. And then you use it the entire life afterwards. You forget the opening pain once and for all, because you don't have to memorize it. And you make it so much difficult for the opponent, which is our main goal here. Chess is a very brutal game. It's not kind by any means. We want our opponent to suffer. And this opening, I find it perfect for that reason. He doesn't know what to do. Doesn't see it much. How on earth, yes, he played g4, now you don't have a problem with this spin, but how do you save this ball? You don't. Simply cannot do it physically. Once the pawn is gone, then you can go forward, you can attack over here. Yeah, the entire position just collapses. And remember this pawn on c6. This pawn like holds the entire position together. If it weren't for this pawn, he can go here, grab my pawn, everything would be really bad. But this pawn makes it all possible. All right, bishop c3. Bishop e3 doesn't really create any threats, it's protected, doesn't solve his problem, so I'm gonna just take it, open up this guy, have this knight in the center, create a huge threat of just taking the knight immediately. Once your opponent opens up the king like that, you want to counterattack in the center, so that through the center you can punish him for opening up the king. Alright, is there any way to defend? No, I don't think so. Place that, let me just take, why not? It's like time to cash in the harvest time. First, we built the foundation, we developed all of our pieces, we created some weaknesses in our opponent's camp, then we patiently started attacking it, and now it's just time to collect everything we have earned so far. Okay, 2 pawns up. How do you win such a position? You're still careful with your opponent's threats. For example, yeah, don't fall for any troubles over here. Don't have your pieces unprotected. Like this is almost unprotected, you know, one attacker, one defender, which means if he adds another one somehow, then your knight is already in trouble. So we try to avoid such stuff. How do we do that? I guess just knight f6. Now we are threatening e4. If he takes, we are happy to take it back. That would coincidentally make a luft for our king, so we are not struggling with back rank issues. Very useful. And this pawn can go forward. This bishop can come back and defend it if needed as well. Yes, he attacks it. I think bishop d6 is the most instructive. But e4 is also good. I mean, it's a matter of taste, I would say. He probably wants to play bishop c3 and attack it again, so from that perspective, he wants to rather play e4 and solve that problem. Also, that's just a much more active move. Bishop d6 is just a reaction to our opponent's threat. It doesn't create any threats. Whereas this is the most active way for us to deal with the problem and at the same time create a new problem for the opponent. Now we can create yet another problem for the opponent and play bishop c5. We create a threat here and we threaten to take his rook. That is the way I want you to play in every single move. So ideally, every move you make is a new problem that your opponent has to solve. If this knight goes away, I'm gonna have a fantastic queen g3 discover check. So can I make this knight go away? Maybe it's not that simple. But I have a way to create new threats. Like I can play knight d5, I can play b4. Knight d5, the only drawback is that this pawn is going to be hanging. So I'm gonna play b4. I like this move. I'm attacking the bishop, and it has to defend both the rook and the knight. Yes, he takes, but that's fine. Now the bishop is still hanging. If it goes here, I'm gonna attack it. Still, my rook is much more active than this guy. It's controlling the open file. Although you always think about your opponent's opportunities, he has the move queen b1 or queen c1 defending it. I think that still works for me. If I take and then play queen e5, well, I give him some chances. Maybe I don't want to do that. So what else do I have? I can play queen e5 immediately, because still he cannot go away that bishop is hanging. And then he defends it, right? I think I'm gonna do it. I really like it so much, because we are more active here. We have so much initiative. We have to take advantage of it. Yeah, let me just take it. It's not the only way to win the game, but I find it pretty cool. Queen e5. How on earth are we gonna deal with the pin now? And remember, this knight cannot go anywhere because of this queen g3, which would be really devastating. Meanwhile, when you don't know what to do, you ask yourself, what is my worst placed piece? And how can I improve it? This knight on f6 so far is doing absolutely anything. And I want to really improve it. I want to make use of it. So this move knight to d5 comes into my mind. Remember, this king is absolutely safe. It's going to hide on h7 whenever needed. Which means knight c3 is a big threat. Attacking these... Wait, what? What about your queen? What about queen g3 check? That knight could have never moved. Just thinking whether it's a checkmate or not. Check here. Probably too risky, like normally I should just take the queen, but let me calculate. The knight f4. I don't see a way to stop the checkmate. Let's go for it. If I'm gonna lose because of that, that's my fault. But I want to show something beautiful. Well, also another idea is I can just grab the rook for free, so that is also good enough. But knight c6, like, I never understand it. You blunder the queen, you blunder the checkmate, you blunder the rook, you blunder everything with just one move. It's very difficult to give him a good advice, though, in such a position. Yeah, I think queen g4 is the simplest. Because if you go here or here, I just take the rook with the check. If you go here, I play bishop d6 check, and then again you have to go backward. Because if you do everything with the check, you have nothing to be afraid of. Whereas if you play knight f4 here, at least you have to calculate this check, this check, this check. Who knows what's going to happen, right? But with the check, he cannot do anything. His position is paralyzed. Yes, you can play knight f5, but then again, this knight is pinned. I can take the rook. Can even play queen h5 actually, because I attack this guy. If you go backwards, I take with the check. If you go here, I have knight f4. Yeah, queen h5. That's why I tell you every single time to start with the check. This is the most active opportunity you can make. It doesn't mean that you have to start with the check, right? You have to actually make a move, but you start considering your options with it. King to g2. It's actually a little bit smarter, because if I play knight f4, then he goes here and attacks my guy. But come on, enough is enough. I can still take on e5. Threatening the queen, threatening some discover checks, threatening checkmates, multiple checkmates. Queen h3 is a checkmate in one. Yeah, okay, he finally goes backwards, but now let's grab his rook. And come back. Like, it's literally the same position, but without the rook, which is much more convenient. Now he doesn't have any checks, which is always great. So of course I can take here, but I think queen h3 is an immediate checkmate. You push your opponent's king into the kill zone, and then you don't let it out. Like if you play queen g5 check, for example, instead, then at least he can try to run. Whereas here, you don't allow him to escape, and then you deliver the checkmate. This is exactly how you use this powerful opening to crush anyone under 2000 till. In this playlist, you can learn so much more about this amazing opening. Don't forget, 10-day opening master right now on sale, full month of live coaching with me completely for free. The link is in the description.